Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something a bit different. Forget the usual headlines. We're digging into something really fundamental.
Yeah, what's that?
The actual, practical side of being an adventurer.
Ah, okay. Beyond the dragons and magic.
Exactly. We've been looking through the basic rules for Dungeons & Dragons, the
Yeah.
5th edition ones from D&D Beyond.
Right.
And it's kind of amazing how much detail there is on just the everyday stuff.
Oh, absolutely. People think D&D, they think, epic battles, powerful spells.
Mhm.
But the system behind just walking around, keeping track of time, talking to people, it's surprisingly intricate.
That's exactly what we want to unpack today. Our mission, if you like, is to give you a solid feel for what that adventuring life actually entails, based on these core rules.
It sounds good. It's those foundational mechanics that really make the game world feel, well, real.
Totally. We're talking the nitty-gritty, like how time itself seems to stretch or shrink depending on where you are.
Yeah, or the physics of jumping.
Right. Or just how you figure out travel time, or how you spot danger when you're just walking down a road. It's all in there.
It really is. Okay, so where should we start? Maybe with the basic rhythm of it all.
Good idea. The rules lay out this simple 3-step loop, don't they?
They do. Step 1, the DM sets the scene, describes what you see, what's happening.
Okay.
Step 2, the players, that's you, say what your characters do. I attacked the goblin, I searched the chest, whatever.
Right. Your actions.
And step 3, the DM tells you what happens because of your actions, the results.
It sounds obvious when you say it like that, but that cycle is the engine, isn't it? That back and forth.
It is.
Yeah.
And the rules mention the DM using things like maps, notes, maybe timelines.
Yeah, I saw that. It highlights that it's not all improv. There's a structure the DM is managing.
Exactly. Keeps the world consistent. Okay, so building on that structure, let's talk about time. Time in the adventuring day.
This is what I found really interesting. It's not just one clock ticking.
Not at all. The scale changes completely depending on the context. So, say you're creeping through a dungeon,
Okay.
checking for traps, searching rooms. Time there is measured in minutes.
Right. Like the rules say maybe a minute to edge down a hallway or 10 minutes to properly search a room.
Exactly. It makes everything feel very deliberate, very tense. Each minute counts.
Yeah, you feel the weight of that time.
But then, zoom out. You're traveling through a city or maybe hiking across the wilderness.
Okay, different scale now.
Now we're talking hours. Covering miles between locations. Like, it takes you 4 hours to reach the wizard's tower.
Right. Focus shifts from immediate danger to, navigation and maybe resource management over a longer stretch.
Precisely. And then zoom out again. Big journeys. City to city.
Now we're in days, right?
Yep. Traveling for days. The example they use is 4 days from Baldur's Gate to Waterdeep.
And they even throw in a goblin ambush along the way.
Right. So it shows the scale, the potential for encounters over these long hauls. It's not just about the destination.
It's the journey, literally.
And then finally, the shortest scale. When things get really intense, usually combat.
Ah, yes.
The 6-second round, everything happens super fast. Quick decisions, immediate actions.
So you've got minutes, hours, days, and rounds.
Yeah.
The game's time is really fluid.
It adapts to the pacing of the story. Very clever, really.
Okay, so we've got the rhythm, we've got the different clocks. How do adventurers actually, move through this world? Let's get into movement.
Right, the actual getting around. The base unit is speed.
That's feet per round, isn't it? For those quick bursts in combat or similar situations.
Exactly. But for traveling any real distance, you use travel pace. And there are 3 options.
Okay, what are they?
You've got fast, normal, and slow.
Right. Fast lets you cover more ground, yeah. Like 4 miles an hour, 30 miles a day.
Correct. 400 feet per minute. But other a catch.
Always a catch. What is it?
You're less observant. You take a penalty, a -5, to your passive perception score.
So faster travel, but you might walk right into an ambush you'd otherwise spot. Risk versus reward.
Exactly. Then there's normal pace, 300 feet a minute, 3 miles an hour, 24 miles a day. No penalties, no bonuses, just standard.
The default setting, basically.
Pretty much. And finally, slow pace, 200 feet a minute, 2 miles an hour, 18 miles a day.
Seems like you wouldn't choose that often,
Unless you want to be stealthy. That's the main benefit of going slow. You can actually try to move without being noticed.
Ah, okay. So slow and steady might win the race if you want to avoid trouble or set up a surprise.
Precisely. It really changes how you approach traveling through dangerous areas.
Now, adventurers are tough, but they can't just walk forever, right? What about pushing past the usual limits, like traveling more than 8 hours?
That's called a forced march. And yeah, it's tough.
How does it work?
For every hour you travel beyond 8 hours, you still cover the distance for your pace, but you have to make a Constitution saving throw at the end of that hour.
Okay, a saving throw. What's the difficulty?
The DC starts at 10, but it increases by 1 for each hour past the 8th. So the 9th hour is DC 10, the 10th is DC 11, the 11th is DC 12, and so on.
And if you fail?
You gain a level of exhaustion.
Oof. And exhaustion's bad news, right? It stacks up and gives penalties.
Very bad news. It can affect your speed, your ability checks, eventually even kill you. So pushing too hard has real consequences.
Definitely something to track carefully. What about getting around faster mounts? Vehicles?
Yep, they help. A horse at a gallop for a short time, maybe an hour, can go twice as fast as someone on foot moving fast.
But you can't keep that up all day, presumably. Need fresh horses.
Exactly. Logistics. Land vehicles, like carts, usually follow the normal travel pace rules. Ships are different again. Depends on the vessel, the wind, the crew. Some can travel 20/47.
So more options, more complexity. And the ground itself can slow you down, right? Difficult terrain.
Oh, yeah. Swamps, dense forests, deep snow, heavy rubble, anything that makes movement harder.
And the effect is simple. It just slows you.
It halves your movement. So every foot you want to move through difficult terrain costs you 2 feet of your speed.
Okay, so a 30-foot speed character could only move 15 feet through difficult terrain and around. That could really change things tactically.
Absolutely. Makes positioning and route planning much more important.
Okay, besides walking and riding, sometimes you need to climb things or swim or crawl.
Right. Special types of movement. Generally, these cost extra movement, too.
How much extra?
Usually 1 extra foot of movement for every foot you travel, climbing, swimming, or crawling. So, like difficult terrain, it costs 2 feet of movement to move 1 foot.
And if you're climbing through difficult terrain, like up a crumbling vine-covered wall,
then it costs even more. It would be 3 feet of movement per foot climbed. In that case, 1 for climbing, 1 for the difficult terrain.
wow, okay. That adds up fast.
Unless you have a specific climbing or swimming speed listed on your character sheet. Some creatures or classes get those, and then they move at that speed normally in that element.
Gotcha. And sometimes you might need to make a check, too, like for a really tough climb.
Definitely. The DM might call for a strength athletics check for a tricky climb, or swimming in rough water. Adds a chance of failure.
Okay, and then there's jumping, which sounds simple, but the rules get pretty specific, don't they?
They do. There's a long jump and a high jump.
Let's do the long jump first. Across a gap, say.
Right. If you get a running start move at least 10 feet straight towards the jump first, you can jump a distance in feet equal to your strength score.
So strength 14 character, 14-foot running long jump.
Exactly. But if you do a standing long jump, no run up, it's only half your strength score, so 7 feet for that character.
Okay. And does jumping cost movement?
Yes. Every foot you clear in the jump costs 1 foot of your movement for that round.
And what about landing? Or jumping over things?
Good questions. If you try to jump over a low obstacle, say knee-high, you need a DC 10 strength athletics check to clear it. And if you land in difficult terrain, you need a DC 10 dexterity acrobatics check to land on your feet. Otherwise, you fall prone.
So even a simple jump can go wrong. What about jumping up? High jump.
Similar idea. Get a 10-foot running start, and you can jump vertically, a height equal to 3 plus your strength modifier. Minimum of 0 feet, obviously.
3 plus the modifier. Okay. Not the score itself.
Right. And again, a standing high jump is half that height. It still costs movement, 1 foot used for every foot jumped vertically.
And can you reach higher while jumping?
Yes. You can reach up 1.5 times your height during the peak of your jump. So a 6-foot-tall character could reach 9 feet high while jumping.
Useful for grabbing ledges. Can you try to jump higher than the formula allows?
The DM might allow a strength athletics check for that, to push your limits a bit.
Fascinating how much thought went into just jumping. Okay, so people are moving, jumping, climbing. How do they stay organized and safe on the road?
Well, the first thing is usually setting a marching order.
Like who walks in front, who's in the middle, who's bringing up the rear.
Exactly. It helps determine who might trigger a trap, who gets attacked first if something jumps out, who can see what. In tight spaces, it might become single file. It's basic tactics for group travel.
Makes sense. And we mentioned stealth earlier with the slow pace.
Right. If you're moving slow and there's cover or obscured areas, you can try to use stealth to avoid being seen or heard. The rules point back to the general hiding rules for how that works with checks.
And scouting. Sending someone ahead.
You can do that. Split the party, obviously gives you info, but
It's risky. Smaller group is more vulnerable.
always a trade-off.
So how do you know if you've been spotted or if there's danger nearby you haven't seen yet?
That usually comes down to noticing threats, which heavily relies on passive wisdom, perception.
Passive perception. That's like your automatic awareness, what you notice without actively looking.
Pretty much. It's 10 plus your wisdom perception modifier. The DM compares this to the stealth check of anything hiding, or the DC to spot a trap.
And only certain people in the marching order might notice things.
The DM might roll that, yeah, like maybe only the people in front notice the tripwire, or only those in the back hear something sneaking up behind.
And that penalty for moving fast. The -5 to passive perception.
Crucial. It makes you significantly less likely to notice danger when you're rushing. Really emphasizes that trade-off again, speed versus awareness.
Okay, so let's say you do encounter something. Creatures, monsters, other people. What happens then?
Well, encountering creatures kicks off a decision point. Both sides usually have to decide, fight, talk, run away, maybe just wait and see.
And if your group was successfully stealthy,
Then you might get surprise on your foes, which is a huge advantage, basically letting you act before they can react in the first round of combat.
big payoff for moving slow and quiet. Now, while traveling, people aren't always just looking around, right? They might be doing other things.
Definitely. The rules list other activities you can do while traveling. But crucially, if you're doing these, you're not contributing your passive perception to noticing threats. You're distracted.
Ah, okay. What kind of activities?
Things like navigate, using wisdom survival checks to avoid getting lost. Very important in the wilderness.
Sure.
Draw a map, which doesn't usually need a check, but takes concentration. Track, using wisdom survival, again, this time to follow footprints or other signs.
Useful for hunting or pursuit.
And forage, also wisdom survival, trying to find food and water in the wild.
So the party has to decide who does what, who navigates, who keeps watch, maybe someone forages, splitting the focus.
Exactly. Resource and attention management.
Okay, let's shift from the actions of the adventurers to the dangers of the environment itself. It's not just monsters out there.
Not at all. The environment can be deadly. Let's start with a classic. Falling.
Everyone's nightmare. How bad is it?
Simple but brutal. 1d6 bludgeoning damage for every 10 feet fallen.
Ouch. Is there a max?
Yep. Caps out at 20d6. So falling 200 feet or 2,000 feet, it's still 20d6 damage, which is a lot.
Yeah, likely lethal for many. And you land prone, right? Knocked flat.
Unless you have some magic or ability to stop it, yeah. Land prone, possibly very injured. Heights are serious business.
Definitely. What about not being able to breathe? Drowning, poison gas, suffocating.
Another scary one. You can hold your breath for a number of minutes equal to 1 plus your constitution modifier. Minimum 30 seconds, though.
Okay, so a tough character might hold it for several minutes.
Right. But once you run out of breath, or if you start choking immediately, you only survive for a number of rounds equal to your constitution modifier. Minimum 1 round.
Rounds, so just seconds.
Exactly. After those few rounds, you drop to 0 hit points and start dying. And you can't regain hit points or be stabilized until you can breathe again.
Wow, that is incredibly quick and dangerous. Makes underwater stuff or trapped rooms terrifying.
It really does. Time is critical. Okay, another environmental factor. Vision and light. Hugely important.
Can't interact with what you can't see.
Yeah.
How do the rules handle it?
They define different levels of obscured vision. Lightly obscured areas, think dim light, patchy fog, light foliage, give you disadvantage on wisdom perception checks that rely on sight.
So, harder to spot things.
Yep. Then there's heavily obscured, total darkness, thick fog, dense jungle leaves. This effectively blinds you. You can't see anything through it.
Blinded. That shuts down a lot of options.
Completely. And the rules define light sources, too. Bright light is normal vision. Dim light creates lightly obscured areas. Examples are twilight, dawn, maybe a full moon, or the edge of a torch's radius.
And darkness.
Creates heavily obscured areas. Nighttime outdoors, unlit dungeons, magical darkness spells.
But some creatures can see in the dark, right?
Yes. Special senses come into play here. Blind sight lets a creature see without sight, often using sonar or tremors out to a certain radius. Think bats or oozes. Dark vision is more common for player races. It lets you see in darkness as if it were dim light. So you can see, but it's indistinct, shades of gray only, and you still have disadvantage on perception checks in that dim light.
Better than nothing, but not perfect.
Right. And then there's True Sight, the really powerful one.
What does that do?
See normally in darkness, even magical darkness, see invisible creatures and objects, automatically detect visual illusions and succeed on saves against them, see the true form of shape changers or creatures hidden by magic, and even see into the ethereal plane.
Whoa. Okay, that's a serious advantage.
Very rare, usually reserved for powerful angels, demons, or specific magic.
Got it. Okay, moving from sight to basic survival needs. Food and water.
Can't adventure for long without them. The baseline is 1 pound of food and 1 gallon of water per day.
A gallon. That seems like a lot.
Well, adventuring is thirsty work,
Okay.
and it doubles to 2 gallons a day in hot weather.
Okay, what happens if you don't get enough?
Bad things. For food, you can go without for a number of days equal to 3 plus your constitution modifier before you start suffering exhaustion. Eating a full day's ration resets that clock. You can survive on half rations, half a pound, but it doesn't reset the clock fully.
So food is a bit forgiving initially. What about water?
Water is much more critical. Going a day on only half a gallon requires a DC 15 constitution save to avoid gaining 1 level of exhaustion.
Ouch. A saving throw just for half rations.
Yep. And if you drink less than half a gallon in a day, you automatically gain a level of exhaustion. If you already have exhaustion and fail to save or drink too little, you gain 2 levels.
Yikes. Water is non-negotiable then. You need to keep track of it.
Absolutely. Resource management is key for survival.
Okay, one last bit on interacting with the physical world. Interacting with objects. Doors, chests, levers.
Yeah, usually it's simple. You tell the DM, I open the door, and they tell you what happens. If it's stuck or locked, they might ask for a strength check to force it open. The DM sets the DC.
Can you just smash things? Break down a door?
You can certainly try. Objects have an armor class, AC, and hit points determined by the DM based on what they're made of. You can attack them.
Do they take all types of damage?
Most types. They're immune to poison and psychic damage, though. And they automatically fail strength and dexterity saving throws, but are immune to effects that require other saves.
Interesting. So you can fireball a door, but maybe not charm it?
Exactly. Once it hits 0 hit points, it's broken. Or you can just make a strength check to break it directly. Again, DM sets the DC based on how sturdy it is.
Right. Okay, so that covers a lot of the physical interaction. But adventuring isn't just about hitting things and climbing stuff. There's talking to people. Social interaction.
Hugely important. You spend a lot of time dealing with NPCs' non-player characters. Shopkeepers, guards, quest givers, villains.
And how they react to you matters. The rules mention their attitude.
Yeah, generally NPCs start as friendly, indifferent, or hostile. Your goal is usually to make them friendly, or at least indifferent if you need something from them. Hostile ones. Well, that often leads to other kinds of interaction.
Yeah, combat, probably. So how do you influence them?
2 main ways. Role-playing and ability checks. Often a mix of both.
Let's talk role-playing first. That's acting in character.
Essentially, yeah. But the rules mention 2 styles. The descriptive approach is where you describe what your character says and does. I try to flatter the guard, complimenting his shiny helmet.
Okay, narrating the intent.
Right. The active approach is where you speak as your character, maybe using a voice or mannerisms. My good sir, that helmet is truly magnificent, polished to perfection.
So, acting it out.
Yep. Most people blend them. The key is conveying your character's intent, personality, and what you're trying to achieve.
And the DM figures out how the NPC reacts based on that.
Exactly. The DM considers the NPC's personality, their mood, their goals, their flaws, and how your character's actions play into those. Are you appealing to their greed, their vanity, their fear, their compassion?
It's like real life then. Reading the room, figuring out what makes someone tick.
Very much so. Observing the NPC's traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws, as the rules put it, can give you leverage.
But sometimes just talking isn't enough, or the outcome is uncertain. That's where checks come in.
Precisely. Ability checks. Most often, it'll be a charisma check.
Using skills like persuasion, deception, or intimidation.
Those are the main ones, yeah. You roll the d20, add your charisma modifier and your proficiency bonus if you're proficient in the skill. The DM sets a DC based on the NPC's attitude and the difficulty of what you're trying to achieve.
So a smooth-talking character with high charisma and persuasion proficiency has a real advantage in social situations.
A huge advantage. It's their equivalent of a fighter's sword arm. But the DM might call for other checks too, depending on the situation. Maybe an insight check to see if the NPC is lying, or even intelligence to make a clever argument.
So it's flexible, but charisma is usually king for social stuff.
Generally, yes.
Okay, our adventurers have fought, traveled, talked, They're probably tired and beat up. Time for rest and recovery.
Absolutely vital. You can't keep going indefinitely. There are two types of rest.
Short rest and long rest.
Yeah.
What's a short rest?
It's at least 1 hour long. During that hour, you can't do anything more strenuous than eating, drinking, reading, tending wounds, light activity.
And the main benefit?
You can spend hit dice to heal.
Ah, right. Hit dice are like your pool of recovery potential.
Exactly. You have a number of them equal to your character level. During a short rest, you can choose to roll one or more of them, add your constitution modifier to each roll, and regain that many hit points.
Useful for patching yourself up after a fight without using up healing spells.
Very useful. Good resource management involves knowing when to take a short rest.
Okay, then what about the long rest? That's the full reset.
Pretty much. A long rest needs to be at least 8 hours long. During that time, you need at least 6 hours of sleep and no more than 2 hours of light activity like reading or keeping watch.
So standing watch is okay during a long rest?
For up to 2 hours, yes. But if the rest is interrupted by anything more serious like fighting for an hour or strenuous travel, you don't get the benefits.
And the benefits are?
Big ones. You regain all your lost hit points, full health.
Nice.
And you regain spent hit dice up to half your maximum number of hit dice, rounded down, minimum of 1.
So you get back some of that short rest healing potential too?
Yep. Many class features also recharge on a long rest. It's essential for being ready for the next day.
Is there a limit? Can you just take long rests back to back?
Nope. You can only benefit from 1 long rest per 24-hour period. And you have to have at least 1 hit point when you start it to gain its benefits. You can't rest back from the brink of death, usually.
Okay, makes sense. Gotta find a safe place to crash for 8 hours.
Finding that safe place is often part of the challenge.
Right. Okay, so that covers the adventuring cycle. What about the time between the big adventures? The life between the big moments?
Downtime. Yeah, it's an important part of the game, often overlooked. It's when characters can pursue longer-term goals, recover properly, spend their loot.
How is it handled? Does the DM track every single day?
They can, but often it's handled more broadly. You spend the next 2 weeks in the city, unless the players want to do specific things. One key aspect is lifestyle expenses.
Like deciding if you're living in squalor or modestly or like royalty.
Exactly. Each lifestyle has a daily cost, from coppers for wretched poverty up to gold pieces for an aristocratic life. And it can affect how NPCs see you. Showing up covered in filth versus arriving in fine clothes changes perceptions.
So your downtime choices can impact future adventures. Interesting. What else can you do during downtime?
Lots of things. The rules call them downtime activities. They usually require spending at least 8 hours a day for a certain number of days.
Okay, what are some examples?
You can do crafting. If you have the right tools and proficiency, you can make non-magical items.
Like armor or weapons?
Yep, though something complex like plate armor takes a long time. You make progress worth 5 gold pieces of the item's market value per day, and you have to spend half the value in raw materials.
So crafting plate armor worth 1,500 DRAMP would take 300 days and cost 750 DRAMP in materials.
That's right. It's a major undertaking, but multiple people can help. And your lifestyle costs are usually lower while you're focused on crafting.
Okay. What else? Can you just work a normal job?
Sure. Practicing a profession. Use your skills to earn money. Usually enough for a modest or comfortable lifestyle. If you have the performance skill, you might even earn enough for a wealthy lifestyle by entertaining people.
So downtime doesn't have to mean being idle.
Not at all. You can also focus on recuperating if you have lingering injuries, diseases, or poisons that normal rest isn't fixing.
How does that work?
Spend 3 days doing nothing but resting, and you can make a DC 15 Constitution save. Success might end an effect that stops hit point regain, or give you advantage on saves against a specific disease or poison for 24 hours.
Good for shaking off nasty lingering effects.
Then there's researching. Digging into lore, investigating mysteries, looking for clues.
How involved is that?
Depends on what you're looking for. The DM decides how long it takes, where you might find the info. Libraries, experts, sages, and if there are costs involved, usually about 1 GP per day for materials, bribes, etc., might require intelligence, investigation, or other checks.
So a way to solve problems outside of immediate adventuring.
Exactly. And finally, training. This is how you can learn a new language or gain proficiency with a set of tools, like thieves' tools or an herbalism kit.
Oh, okay. How long does that take?
A long time, 250 days of downtime, and you need an instructor. Plus, it costs 1 GP per day for expenses.
Wow, 250 days. That's a serious commitment. Almost a year in-game.
It is. It represents significant learning. but it's a way characters can grow and gain new abilities between adventures.
It really adds depth, doesn't it? That sense that life goes on, characters have goals beyond the next dungeon.
It absolutely does. It makes the world feel more lived in and gives players agency over their character's development beyond just leveling up.
Well, this has been quite the deep dive into the nuts and bolts of being an adventurer, straight from the basic rules. It's amazing how much structure underlies even simple actions.
It really is. You look at movement or time or just interacting with an object, and there's a whole mechanical framework there holding the world together. It's not just arbitrary.
Definitely not. It provides that consistency that makes the fantasy believable in a way.
Yeah, you understand the physics of the world, even if it includes magic.
So thinking about all this, the pacing, the risks of travel, the need for rest, the social navigation, the downtime opportunities, it really makes you consider, what kind of adventurer would you want to be? Would you be the fast-moving scout who risks missing things, the cautious, stealthy type, the meticulous planner who manages every ration?
Or the social butterfly who talks their way through everything?
Exactly. What parts of all this surprised you the most listening today? For me, I think it was the detail jumping rules, honestly.
Yeah, they are specific. For me, maybe the sheer importance and penalty of things like lack of water or exhaustion really grounds the fantasy in a kind of survival reality.
True. It all combines to create this really rich foundation for telling stories.
And remember, this is just scratching the surface of the basic rules. There's combat, magic, equipment, so much more.
Indeed. A journey for another time, perhaps. But for now, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fundamentals.
My pleasure.
Until next time, may your passive perception be high and your rests uninterrupted.